Welcome to the Daily Objective. It is day 17 of the war in Israel. I am joined by Gil-ad Herzfeld, who you've seen twice so far on the reality show, and he is joining me
So far on
this
the
episode.
reality show, and he's joining me.
And this is what happens when you don't mute your YouTube. But we are going to be talking about a topic that is, well, let's get to the news and then we'll get to the topic. The news is kind of is a part of the topic, but there are some updates. So the rockets are still coming in from the north. It's a drip. It's not a uh, not what Hezbollah can do as of yet, but we'll see that when they decide it's time for us to see that. That's how it goes, and it's also part of our topic today, which is Israel's response in the north. There are some reports that 50 hostages might be freed by Hamas as part of a deal that the Qatari government and the Americans are working on. These will be people with dual citizenship. As somebody who grew up in Israel and was very happy when he got dual citizenship. This is uh, yeah, people have an advantage there that in the case of Hamas wants to look good or be made to look good by Western media and politicians. Some Western media and politicians will do that, without anything in return. But certainly, if they have an opportunity to say, "Look, they're being humanitarian. They're releasing some of the prisoners. Some of the ones they encountered in their invasion that weren't beheaded or burnt alive are going to be released. That's very kind of them. Uh, so yeah, that is a part of the situation, and a part of the situation in Israel is there's more vocal. You hear the rift, more vocally in terms of what's going on. We mentioned yesterday that it was reported that the defense minister wanted a preemptive attack in the north, and Netanyahu said no because he was worried about the American response. That's his excuse. I think that's often his excuse. Um, we are now hearing that he and the IDF are at odds over what to do. Soldiers were called up pretty much immediately. That's over 2 weeks ago now. They've been waiting. They've been wanting to do something about it in terms of a ground operation. The government is saying, we need to clear the area for them from the air, but that, at least as far as I can tell, isn't done strongly enough either. So, Gilad, I am, this is, I often say on the show, we try to keep it family friendly and, keep the language clean. This may be one of those episodes where if you have kids who you don't want exposed to adult language, maybe send them to the other room. I'm gonna try, but anyway. So Netanyahu, uh, yeah, seriously, fuck that guy. I mean, the fact that he has not acted, and the fact that he is, blaming everybody, the fact that he's not taking responsibility for what happened initially and not doing anything, to fight back. How we talk about we actually talked about on this channel about how at war this is not the time to replace a leader. I think I said that. I take it back. Neville Chamberlain was I think is a very appropriate example to use here. He was replaced uh during wartime, and it's appropriate to an extent, but it's an insult to Chamberlain to compare him to Netanyahu, because he may have signed a peace deal with Hitler, but he declared war when Hitler invaded Poland. When Hamas invaded Israel, Netanyahu also declared war, but didn't actually take any warlike action. Yeah, Gilad, before I get ourselves canceled from YouTube, what are your initial thoughts on this topic?
Um,
As an Israeli, I've been frustrated by the Israeli politics for a long while. I've been barely following it in the last couple of years, not even sure what the names of all the parties are. But it's just like I just cannot understand, almost on the human level, how could Netanyahu be prime minister for such a long time? He's been prime minister for 13 years out of the last 15 years. He's been in charge. For the last year, it's like the most right-winged government. He calls himself the protector of Israel. And something like this happens, and everyone else is at fault for this. A part of him, not even a word, a gesture of some kind of I'm taking responsibility for this. It's just horrible. And also the fact that it seems that he is very much occupied with the future of his political career. I know that his political advisor keeps on coming to the headquarters of the army, in the center of Tel Aviv, and participates in some of the meetings to help Netanyahu figure out how to get the public opinion in his favor, also probably in the days after the war. And that's troubling. Like, yeah, maybe you can function better with the prime minister that we have right now instead of changing. But could you function better if you're preoccupied with your political stature after the war? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think this came up on a show that we did together maybe last week, and we discussed whether, like, I was surprised that you thought there was any chance of him surviving, or that he thinks there's any chance, but it definitely looks like he does think, and maybe that's a part of it comes with the territory of being Israel's longest serving prime minister. He thinks nothing can touch him, including the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. They say never again. They say Israel is the place where Jews should go, to avoid all the anti-Semitism in the world. And that is the place where, under Netanyahu's watch, under his leadership, he can't blame it on past prime ministers. He's been there for, almost, as you said, almost the entire last 15 years. It's on him. So, and Netanyahu wrote a very good book about fighting terrorism. I mentioned a few times the event we did with Yaron last week, and Yaron said Netanyahu is essentially, he's a coward, but he's very good at talking. And he was always good at talking. He was good at writing. Which tells you that he understands the problem. He understands the problem, and the book pretty much tells you how you should deal with terrorists. And he has not acted on his own advice. I'm surprised there's not, any class action lawsuit by people who purchased the book, at least to get their money back, because clearly he doesn't believe what he's actually saying, or he doesn't believe what he's doing. Which is it? And can we all sue him for the cost of the book?
Like, I don't really know. He speaks the right words, not only on security, but also on other stuff. As objectivists, we know what kind of government we should have economically, and that is, a free market economy. So we definitely understand that, and he hasn't been operating in that way as a prime minister since he was in charge of what's the name
Since
of
he was finance minister under
finance
Sharon.
minister 20 years ago. Since then, he hasn't been doing anything, almost anything right economically, even though he's speaking the right language. So I guess it's just the same thing about security. And for me, one of it's an anecdote, but it symbolizes so well the failure of Netanyahu. During a campaign he had a few years ago, as he was running, his party was running for the parliament here, they had They incited against the left with a campaign of ISIS members in a white pickup truck standing on the back with guns and with like a flag of ISIS, and asking some left-wingers, how do I get into Tel Aviv? And the left tells them, you go straight and then you turn left. And then they shoot and they drive away. And this is supposedly what the left should have brought to Israel, and he was the one that should have protected us against it. And this is exactly what happened, and not one word of taking responsibility. Yeah, just frustrating.
Yeah, we have a super chat from Bonnie and a super chat from Jonathan. Thank you both. Bonnie says, is no one in Israel speaking up for direct, immediate action? Now, you are in Israel, I'm here, but I hear people in Israel, everybody, every single person is speaking for direct, immediate action. Am I right? Or are there, any dissenting voices except Netanyahu and the people kind of campaigning for whatever he decides to do?
First of all, there was the issue of are we really ready to send people, soldiers inside the Gaza Strip, from like the angle of, do we have all the equipment and everything? Like some of the reasoning behind waiting was, let's make sure that all the soldiers are ready. It's been more than 2 weeks now. I think they should be ready. And yeah, most people call for it. There is the issue of it's not so easy. Like, it's not that the Air Force can get rid of all the terrorists. They are hiding really well underground, and it's hard to get them. So yeah, how many more days of the Air Force bombing and no troops on the ground? I don't know.
I mean, in terms of, so the soldiers I've spoken to, and this goes back a week or more, are not only ready, they were getting frustrated over a week ago by basically being called up immediately and not being able to do anything. Now, yeah, I've said here many times, I think this war, I'd like to see it won from the air rather than with many casualties on the Israeli side, which is what a ground operation would necessarily entail. I think a few of the considerations, obviously, there's the hostages, which Israel doesn't want to harm, but Hamas knows exactly what they're doing. This is why they didn't slaughter as 100% of the Jews they encountered. It was very close to 100, but they took as many as they thought would help them, their cause, and Israel and the West is playing into their hands on this. And yeah, there is the question of how, what type of victory can be achieved from the air. Now, you were in Air Force intelligence, so you can actually probably tell us to some extent. Please don't, we already know from your appearance on the reality show that Hamas watches this show and times their rockets accordingly. So please don't give them any secrets, but tell us what you can tell us.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not active in my service anymore, so I don't know anything like official that actually is happening right now. I do know that many people think that it's easy to catch the terrorists, especially as they are literally shooting rockets at Israel every day. Like, people think, what is the problem? Just bomb the rocket launcher exactly, like, seconds after it is shot, and you will catch the terrorists. But it's not so simple, because they use basically timers. It's that Hamas, also Hezbollah, operates with the same idea that the most valuable asset that they have are the actual people. And they understand that after they use a rocket launcher, they cannot use it again. In the same way that after they use a tunnel, they cannot use it again, because people will see where the exit is. So with rocket launchers, they have a timer next to each one of them. They go there, set the timer for, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So when the rocket is launched, they are long gone. And the way that they build their entire infrastructure is that they see a rocket launcher as a one-time thing. They know that after they shoot it, it's gonna be lost. And it doesn't even cost them so much, because what is a rocket launcher? These are like old school rockets. It's basically a piece of metal with some wings and an engine that you have to, ignite. And the rocket launcher itself is basically just a piece of metal, like a rail that it can fly on the right direction to, so it will land wherever they want it to land. So yeah, it's a real problem to actually get the terrorists. And my bet is gonna be that Israel is just blowing a lot of sand and a lot of metal without really making damage to the organization.
So we had an interesting question here in the regular chat. I'm just going to get to the super chats first. So thank you, Gail, for the super chat. Thank you, Robert Naser. He says, the price of immediate action is enormous and obvious. Unfortunately, the cost of waiting is even larger, but it's far less obvious. And we have a question in the regular chat. Does Israel have any mining engineers to make their own tunnels? Now they're making tunnels. This was on Israeli media. They're making tunnels to kind of practice. But one of my concerns is, we think tunnels, we think, we're like people in London might think about the London Underground. This is not that kind of tunnel. This is a tunnel that one person can barely fit through, right? Or it might be exaggerating a little bit, but it's not. These tunnels are an equalizer at best, or at worst, they have Hamas has an incredible advantage, even if Israel has them all mapped out, because they know the soldiers are coming. They can escape. They can blow the tunnels up. I mean, I wasn't in the army, but I've seen Fauda, and I recommend they watch that before going in. Sorry for the spoilers, but yeah, this is not going to be a good situation for Israel if it actually sends soldiers into the tunnels. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, you're certainly right. That's the challenge. When we're gonna have soldier inside, you're gonna have Hamas's terrorists popping out of tunnels, shooting, going back in. Even if Israeli tanks are marching into the streets, they're gonna pop up with anti-tank missiles. And what can you do? Maybe we know about some tunnels, but in the same way that we didn't have intelligence of this entire attack, I bet that we don't know about the majority of the tunnels. When we know about the tunnel, yes, we can attack it from the air. Like we have, I'm sure that Israel has quite a bit of like bunker bombs that go deep into the ground before they actually explode. But we just do not know the locations of all the tunnels. So, we don't have so much options other than at one point sending soldiers in and fighting the fight and paying the price of many lives.
So we hear a lot that part of the weight, other than the equipment which you mentioned, which I think has been sorted, certainly for however many soldiers are going to go in. Another thing is that Israel wants to kind of clear the way from the air. To what extent, and to the extent that you can tell us, is Israel using its full capabilities from the air? Of course, there are weapons that can't be used, because of fallout and stuff. But beyond that, to what extent is Israel actually, is this really different from previous campaigns where Israel was bombing Gaza from the air?
First of all, again, I'm not an active soldier or anything. I don't have any information about the amounts of bombs that the Air Force has. I do know that we bomb like a lot more than we used to in different operations. Like these are a lot of bombs falling on the Gaza Strip every day. But they're still worried about civilians. They're still worried about civilians. You see that in the fact that the water is open to some parts of the Gaza Strip. You see it in the fact that trucks with humanitarian aid also already went in the Gaza Strip. So I'm sure that also before they are dropping some bombs, they are still letting them know, or that they just choose not to bomb certain places that we know has Hamas operative just because there are also civilians over there. So there is a shame, and it will come in the cost of a longer time for victory and more Israeli lives lost.
Yeah, the humanitarian aid, I didn't mention it in the in the update at the start, but yeah, Israel is allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza. You know, there were some claims, of course, there were some very legitimate cases made that this should not happen at all. Others were made also, I think there's a good case to be made that this should be in exchange for the release of all the hostages, basically telling them you're going to starve to death. We're going to starve the whole Gaza Strip to death unless you release the hostages. And then, if not Hamas, then at least the people will realize there's a serious risk. No, this was given in exchange for nothing. Israel is giving aid to the people who slaughtered 1,400 Israelis a couple of weeks ago and took 200 plus hostages. So there was a question here. Bonnie asked, does Netanyahu make some kind of excuse? Now, you said you're not like following the news kind of every minute, and I haven't seen anything from him. He doesn't speak publicly much, does he?
The excuse is that it's all the IDF, it's all the intelligence, it's not him. He did not know anything. He didn't hear anything. He wasn't warned by anyone. And even though there is information about Egypt warning Israel days before and weeks before that something big is going to happen. And despite the fact that, listen, there's information, there is public information on the media of Hamas that they've been training for an operation just like the one that has hit Israel so hard. They've been training for it for 4 years. That's like wildly, like I didn't know about it before all of this, but it was like known for everyone. They just figured it's just play. They're just playing on kidnapping soldiers and taking over Israeli towns and taking over the bases, the military bases. So, you know, who is responsible for letting people literally train on the fence on how they're gonna cross it and kill Israeli soldiers and Israeli civilians? Who is responsible for letting them do that for 4 years and just figuring out that they won't really do it? The analogy to that I use is all the zombie apocalypse movies, right? They try to keep the fortress very safe and build walls, and there are zombies outside. The zombies always try to keep on getting in, and at some point they figure out a way. And you just can't have zombies living on the other side of the fence wanting to kill you and not do anything about it. And that's what Israel has done, and all of that with the command of Netanyahu.
So this training was happening right near the fence. Israel saw it. It was, they built like things that looked like towns in Israel, or like maybe the villages or the kibbutzim in that area. They were planning there. There's video of it that I've seen from Hamas. Now I don't know if it was released recently as sort of a bragging how they did this right under Israel's nose, but yeah, there is I think an understanding in Israel that many people will lose their jobs after this in the military, in in politics and so on, which brings us back to Netanyahu, where it seems at least he doesn't see it as clearly that he will be one of those people. I saw Naftali Bennett, who was prime minister for about a year recently. He's been very good on his appearances in foreign media. He is taking some responsibility now. When politicians take responsibility when they're out of office and maybe coming back at some point, I'm kind of a bit skeptical. But I also saw a report that 3 government ministers are considering resigning as a way of helping force Netanyahu to resign. So, yeah, I don't know what will it take, and is there any way of actually getting him out of office? Because again, once this is over, I think it's a matter of time. But is there a way of getting him out now and having somebody semi-competent run this war and maybe if not win it, then at least not lose it as spectacularly as it seems Israel is about to lose it?
I don't have a good answer for that. It's possible, right? Like all you need is enough people enough people in the government that will decide that they want to put the trust in someone else. I think a big part of the challenge is that who is going to be the someone else? Like there isn't a clear candidate to replace him. There isn't someone that seems to be able to gain the support of the majority of the parliament. So, yeah, I guess a good chance that we're stuck with Netanyahu.
Enric, thank you for this super chat. Enric asks, will the Israeli politicians let themselves be controlled by Hamas with the hostages?
I think the answer is yes. I think I just saw an update. It's 222 Israelis in Hamas's captivity, and it keeps on rising, right? It was like every few days we get 10 or 20 more Israelis that we find out that are over there. And yeah, Israel is, you see pictures of them everywhere. Everyone talks about it. It seems that the public opinions is that they should be, everything that needs to be done to bring them back should be done. And yeah, as long as we hold that opinion, we are going to be playing into Hamas's hands.
Yeah, and as time goes by, obviously the families understandably, are campaigning on this, which means that and it's heartbreaking to hear any interview with anybody who has a family member in Gaza. We mentioned the story of the father who said that he shouted yes when he heard that his daughter was dead because the alternative would have been her being held in Gaza. And Yeah, so Hamas, we were talking last week about how Hamas is winning, not just militarily, they're winning the psychological warfare, and Netanyahu is uh, giving them the victory. And there was a question in the regular chat. Can't find it, but something about a no confidence vote. Well, enough members of the coalition will have to decide to vote no confidence in Netanyahu, and that's the problem with politicians in general. I mean, Netanyahu makes the others look good, but when you judge them individually, they're usually not. So, Gilad, any final thoughts on our topic today? Any words of optimism?
Well, I can tell you that the atmosphere in Israel is in many senses positive and optimistic. People feel that we are here for each other on many different aspects. A good example is going to be that all the families around the Gaza Strip in Israel in Israel around the Gaza Strip, they have abandoned it, and there is a lot of farming land over there. So people just come from where I live, from Tel Aviv, from the north. They go down and they help with the farming because this is what is needed right now. People are really trying to take part in the effort in every way, and I think it's gonna translate to a better chance for victory here.
Well, I hope you're right. I want to thank Larry Green for the last minute super chat. Larry says, never elect a Netanyahu or any Yahoo to political office. That is also a positive way to end the show. The reality show starts in a few seconds or a minute or so. The topic is Israel violating international law? That's gonna be interesting. So I hope you all.
The answer is easy. No.
My answer is more complicated, but you'll have to tune in to hear it.
I will.
And Gilad, we will see you again on the channel hopefully very soon. Thank you.